All right, welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing the new Joe Gunther mystery by Archer Mayer. It's titled Marked Man. This is the 32nd book in the Joe Gunther murder mystery series. I've been following this series ever since its infancy in the late 80s, early 90s. I love these books, and I love Joe Gunther, and I love Brattleboro, Vermont. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we get into any of those things, let's talk about the cover, because they finally, after 32 books, book number 32, they finally did a cover that I thought they should have done from the very beginning. These books are set in Vermont, in a great, beautiful landscape. And I've always said, just put a great New England scene on the cover of each book. That's all you got to do to sell it. They finally did it. They finally got a beautiful New England scene on the cover. I love this. I love this. Now, does that mean that I think the covers in the past have been bad? No, I don't. I just think that they all should have been like this. So let's kind of go over, I love graphic design and I love cover illustration. That's why we spend the first 3 or 4 minutes of every video just talking about that, because I love the way books are packaged overall. Now, this is the route that I want them to go. This is the route I've always wanted them to go. Not to say that they had a bad route. Like, this is some previous books. I mean, they all look good on the shelf. They all look like they belong in the same series. I mean, but they're just kind of simple, a lone figure in the mist, another lone figure in the misty snow, another lone figure in the misty autumn, another lone figure in the misty blue, whatever. They look good, though. I mean, the spines all match. I gotta give them that credit. The spines all match. Those are some of the later books, but I like this one better. Now let's look at some of the. These are the first 3 books in the series. I own about half the series in mass market paperback, the other half in hardcover like this. Now I kind of really liked these mass market paperbacks. And there's about a dozen or so of them that look exactly like this. I really loved the cover illustrations. Very kind of stylized noir mystery cover illustrations. I really did dig this. I liked these a lot. But again, I think they could have just done great New England photography and nailed it even better. And the spines all matched. So I didn't really ever have a big problem with it. I just love this so much better. Now, if you disagree, go ahead and put your comment. But I've always thought we should just have Archer Mayer, Brattleboro, Vermont, New England picturesque covers for every mystery. Okay, we're done with that part. Now let's get to the book itself. Joe Gunther is a investigator in Brattleboro, Vermont. He's been a police officer. He's been a lot of different things. Much like Archer Mayer himself. He talks about being an investigator in Brattleboro and also a volunteer fireman, an EMT, a death investigator. So he knows what he's talking about when he writes these books. Joe Gunther, much like all of the other great mystery series I follow, the Spencer series by Robert Parker, the Dennis Lehane, Kenzie and Gennaro, the Harry Bosch series, all of them, all of the ones that I follow. Joe Gunther is cool because he lives in New England. I love it. I used to live in New England. That's why I wore my Rhode Island shirt, because I used to live in Providence, Rhode Island, where half of this book takes place. Now, normally the mysteries take place right there in Brattleboro, Vermont. And every time I read one of these Joe Gunther mysteries, I always end up Googling Brattleboro, Vermont, just to get an idea of where the setting is. Sometimes he mentions actual streets and buildings that are in Brattleboro, and I will also Google those just so I can and he mentioned several streets here. Now, he also talks a lot about Providence, Rhode Island. I lived in Providence, Rhode Island for quite some time. He talks about the Providence, Rhode Island mobsters and how the mob has always sort of stationed themselves in the Federal Hills area of Providence. Well, I used to live in the College Hills area of Providence, which is just across the way from Federal Hills. And the College Hills area is where Brown University is, and Rhode Island School of Art and Design, and things like that. So I started to Google a lot of the neighborhoods in Federal Hills just to reacquaint myself with those neighborhoods. I have driven through them quite a bit. But it was just cool because I did not know that the mob was that prevalent in Providence back when I lived there. Had I known that, I probably would have hung out a lot more in Federal Hills just to see the mobster stuff going down. Because I lived there back in the late 80s, early 90s, so that's probably when the mobsters were doing their dirt. And we're talking about a lot of dirt. And there's a lot of things that are going on between Brattleboro, Vermont, and Providence, Rhode Island in this book that deals with the mob. What happens is Joe Gunther and his team, there's a body that's been donated sort of to the medical students. And as the medical students sort of do their little experiments and autopsies and dissections of this body, they realize initially they just thought this person died of natural causes, but then they realized, no, the person was strangled. So now they've got to open up a case, a murder case. And it all ties, and Joe Gunther's team of investigators have to investigate this, and it gets them wrapped up in the mobsters, and things just go ass over teapot from there. And I love it because just like my C.J. Box, you know, I've got all the C.J. Box and the Longmire and the Tony Hillerman books up there. Just like the C.J. Box Joe Pickett series and the Longmire series, if we follow through all 32 books, we get a really cool sense of who Joe Gunther is and his family and his different girlfriends that he's had and all the people that he works with in the police department and medical examiners' offices and how they get embroiled in all these different mysteries. You know, like Willie Kunkel is one of the cops that just seems to have his nose in everything. He's one of my favorite characters after Joe Gunther, of course. But anyway, they have to investigate this thing. I won't say anything more about the plot than that. And other than every time I reread one of these Joe Gunther mysteries, it takes me back to New England when I lived there. And especially since he put part of this in Providence. I lived in Providence for a bit of time and put me right back in that place and time. Loved it. Loved it. But then again, I love all the Joe Gunther mysteries. I love all of the Archer Mayer whole entire series. You get to see, like I say, you get to follow this guy. If you're going to start the series, though, I would recommend with book number 1, which I believe is Open Season. Yeah, I think that's that's book number 1 out of 32. Read them in order. Read them out of order. They're all standalones. However, I suggest reading them in order just because, like the C.J. Box Joe Pickett series, you get to know all the characters as they sort of age. And that's the charm of this. The other charm of this is the New England countryside. And thank God they finally put a great looking New England gorgeous cover. Love it. Like, I don't mind the others. I'm just saying I love this one a lot. I'm going to give this a good 9 out of 10 stars. I think it's one of the better, more interesting, and maybe that's just because I was back in Providence for a while as I read this. Liked it a lot.